And finally, follow through. You have to actually do it. You can't be determined but not actually do it. So it's key. And I find that at some other teams and businesses I've been a part of, we've had great ideas and we're all good people. We all have integrity, but we ultimately didn't follow through, so it wasn't successful. So we're determined in the first few months of Initiate Impact to follow through on the things that we know that we have to do. So there you go.
Solid. That's what I would want in a partner.
Sweet.
Hired Bob DePasquale. Everyone.
Hire me.
That was good.
No, let me be honest. I'm not for hire, at least to be a full-time employee of a company.
Right.
If you want to talk about culture and purpose and passion and making a positive impact with your employees, then call me. So, what about you? What's going on at Jono?
Yeah, I think for us, integrity and trust may be about the same thing, right? So we pride ourselves on being tremendous stewards of our clients and their budgets, right, and their investments and their brand. That is paramount. We operate, we purchase media for clients in a particular way that aligns with that. And that's why a lot of businesses work with us to be a little bit less risk averse or more risk averse, less risk in their portfolio. And so I think that for us is a strong competitive advantage. The trust is that we'll be consistent with that and that we can have, open and honest conversations around performance, around the brand, around consumers, when we are managing their business, reaching millions of people every week. So I think there's the trust, the integrity. And then I think for us, it's very important that there's a certain sense of maturity and professionalism where, we're in a business, there's people of all ages, of all backgrounds. But at the end of the day, we have a certain job to do. It's very important. It's a revenue driving function. Right, we employ, our efforts help employ people and their livelihoods at other businesses as well as our business. But we put brands first. I mean, that's on the homepage on our website. But for us, it's integrity, it's trust, and it's this sense of maturity and professionalism that we've got your back. Mm-hmm. We'll always be there. Look, at the same time, I think. There's an enjoyment, there's a fun factor that goes into it. Of course, these might sound very conservative, but it's really like, what do you stand for? And I think we're in similar industries, finance, media, and revenue, et cetera. There's some parallels there. So that trust and integrity, I think, is paramount for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for people who are in industries where it's service-based industries, for sure, I think
great point.
Very important.
That's a great point, man.
It's very, very important because your relationship with your customers and the people that you work with is consistent. It should be consistent. And that may not be consistent for 10 years, but even if it's for a year or 6 months, 3 months, there's going to be things that have to get done. There's steps in a specific process that if there isn't integrity there and you're not following through on the things that you said that you need to do or that you're recommending, then it just doesn't work. If you're selling a product, it's a little bit different. You do want to make promises to your people about your brand. And so integrity is still important, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of a different level there, right? I mean, there's a little bit more nuance, if you will. It's very, I feel like it's pretty simple. If you're selling t-shirts, we're going to have our t-shirts out by this date. We promise that the quality is going to be good. That's right. You just do it. Whereas in our industries, it's a little bit different because now we're promising, okay, there's a problem here. There's something that you've hired us to fix or work through, and we don't know the exact answer yet, but we're gonna figure out what it is. And so it's not as simple as just meeting a deadline.
Yeah, and I think that's where the trust comes in, right? I mean, the businesses have to trust that you're gonna do what it takes to get it done, and support them. And I think that's probably critical. We should have Mark back on and talk about relationships and partnerships and how trust factors into that.
Yeah, Mark can certainly talk about that. So, speaking of culture, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Andrew Adeniyi. I don't know if he's on the stream right now, but he kind of gave me the idea to talk about culture today because we had a great conversation yesterday, recording an interview for the Speaking of Impact podcast That episode won't be out probably now for a few months because we're way ahead in recording. But we just had a great conversation about how important culture is on multiple levels. And culture is not just important for the internal aspects of your organization. You might think it is, but it's actually also a part of your external view, that the brand that you're putting out there, because the people who come in to serve for your service, let's say hypothetically you have a restaurant and they can see the culture, they know, you can see how I don't know, comfortable your server is. You can see how they understand the menu. You can see how they enjoy their job. Are they talking? Are they communicating well with you? Do they understand? Are they able to make their own decisions, or do they constantly have to go ask about things? And I'm not saying for someone who's brand new, but you can feel that. And that message is portrayed out by the other people and your customers. So your culture is important, not only for retaining employees and enjoying yourself at work, but it's also important for your brand beyond your walls. And
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You can see that too, like in retail, right? I mean, now things are opening up. I'm a big fan of retail psychology, but you walk into a store, you engage with a rep, you instantly get a vibe for what's going on in that store and what sort of environment it is. It's the thing when new hires walk in first day and potential employees for interviews. Same thing. That's a great point that you guys were making on that podcast. Yeah,
and you'll hear it. It'll be out soon. Give it some time. Check out this week's episode with Janine Ledford. She actually talked about corporate culture too, on a little bit of a different level, but that'll be out tomorrow. But episode 40, I think 43 or something. I don't even remember now. We're rolling. We're doing so many episodes I can't even remember. That's a good sign. All right, cool. Well, let's hit on the question number 2.
All right, question number 2 is live.
All right. Company or your boss, who really sets the corporate culture? Whew. That one's deep, man. Deep.
We're trying to get as provocative as possible here on Founder Jam.
Yeah. So
reminder for everyone commenting, your boss may see your comment.
Yeah, if you're commenting, you're on the stream here, you're actually commenting, then it's very, very important that you know who's listening to you. But anyway, it is really important. So if you're on Instagram, by the way, if you're on one of our Instagram lives and you want to participate in the chat or hear both of us, you're going to have to jump on to either the YouTube channel there or one of the other ones, Twitter, just to be able to participate in the chat. So love you all checking us out on Instagram. That's really important. We thank you. We appreciate the support. But if you want to check it out, you got to get onto the stream on one of those other platforms. Question number 2, though, company or your boss, who really does set the corporate culture? I mean, so really the question, Joe, I think is it the corporate bosses, like the boss's bosses, or your local boss? So I'd be curious to know what you think what your answer is to that.
Yeah, look, I think it's both, right? I think it's critical. I think there's a team culture, and it comes back to this idea that the employee, only their culture and their perception is theirs, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning they're going to have their own unique experiences if you're in marketing versus IT versus creative or events or finance. It's all very different. And I always use this example. I was at a company on the media team. They call it customer acquisition and retention, right? So we were the revenue generating division in the company, marketing, email, etc., e-commerce team on the site. And the IT team, at one point every week, but otherwise every 2 weeks, would have this huge feast catered. And they sat right next to our team, and there would be pizzas and then there'd be chicken and burgers another night, and they play games and everything. And I said,
this place.
Yeah, it sounded great, right? So I said to our SVP, I said, hey, we're driving the revenue here. We've never had anything like that, not once. And his response was, that's not our culture, that's theirs. But for everyone in his division, the corporate culture as they saw it was, We don't celebrate wins. We just do our job. We go home, we come in, we do it, we leave. Like that's it, this kind of stoic, sterile sort of environment. Whereas if you were in IT, you thought it was great. It was collaborative. It was fun. There was team building, etc. So I think one is everyone says it's a corporate culture, but it ultimately, in many ways, resides at the team level. Then, of course, there could be corporate team building events and parties and things like that. But I do think that bosses need to wake up and understand that they're responsible for corporate culture. It's not a nebulous thing. People are responsible for it. What do you
No, I agree. It's not a nebulous thing, but you're right. It can kind of come to that at times. I think people can feel that because you go to work, you do your job, especially if you're someone who's diligent and you do your job well. Sometimes you don't even think about it. One of the stories that Andrew was telling me about on the podcast, and I'm probably spoiling the whole podcast, but he's telling me about the gentleman who worked for a couple of different companies, but he said it told a story of he was in a big meeting, and I'm probably butchering the story, but ultimately there was a guy in there who was just sitting in the corner sobbing, an older gentleman, and he was like, well, what's going on? And actually what happened was he asked the group, he says, who's your best employee at this job, whatever the task was, and they picked this guy, and he was sobbing, like he's sitting there sobbing, and he's like, well, what are you crying? Everyone loves you. And he's like, I've been working for this company for 35 years. I'm about to retire. And this whole time I've been working, no one ever told me that I was appreciated like that. And that will never happen again.
It's a beautiful story, right? I mean, a lot of time, once you get into management, for those of us who might be in management roles that are watching, right? All of a sudden the discussion becomes around attrition and retention, right? Talent retention. And they say that employees, a lot of times, the number one reason that they leave a company is not actual compensation, but it's recognition. And personally, I think, winning the quarterly award, a friend of mine, she just won some award, but she can't stand her job, and they kind of gave her this award and this recognition. And she's like, the heck with you. You've stunk for 2 years. Like, I don't like you, and I'm leaving. But I don't think it's recognition. And honestly, I've been to some of these conferences and hear people talk like quarterly awards and put in a reward structure. I think personally, for me, the recognition is, hey, great job in that meeting. Way to go. You crushed it. Like, that was fantastic. And in your team meeting, recognizing individuals, there's a movement now to remove that and not recognize people because it creates tension, etc. Look, no, people want recognition, and if they do a good job, they deserve it. We're human, so I think it's more this daily making sure like that is a management style, is to recognize people and make them feel appreciated on a daily basis, is why employees are staying or leaving. Not did I win the quarterly thank you for participating award.
I agree with you. It's a management style. And
these get me amped up. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little excited here, guys.
No, you are pretty amped up because you're
really passionate about this.
You were a little under the weather. You're not under the weather anymore. You're fired up, man.
This is man, 2 espressos will do the trick.
Cool. All right, let's hop on to the next question. That was a good one, though. Question number 3.
All right, 5. Go for it.
Is your corporate culture more comfortable with risk-taking or risk aversion? Oh, man. I love this question because I'm pretty much a risk taker. So why not? I mean, I like it in a good way, though. I mean, calculated, intelligent risks. I mean, nothing stupid, but if you're not taking risk and you're not stepping out of your comfort zone, we talk about this all the time on Speaking of Impact, on all the other stuff, my blog. It's very, very important that you identify intelligent, smart risks to take, because you're not growing if you're not pushing the limits a little bit. So our corporate culture, I am guaranteeing, will at Initiate Impact will always be intelligent risk-taking. I mean, risk aversion in our industry is certainly important in one way, But when it comes to innovation and different techniques and different ideas, and speaking of culture, doing innovative things to make your culture better, I think it's important. What about a Jono?
Yeah, so I mentioned it before. We are, I think in general, we're in a high risk business. There's no guarantee people will click on your advertisement, go to your website and buy.
Yeah.
We also don't own, as 99% of agencies, we don't own the entire customer journey. We don't own the website, the checkout flow technology, et cetera, which is very common. So that being said, it is a very high risk environment. So by default, we are more risk averse. And I mention that because there's, like any job, there's a variety of ways to do something. And we pride ourselves on buying media, working with clients, even in general. How do we everything that leads up to purchasing the first dollar of media, the strategies, the meetings, the relationship. We pride ourselves on being very risk averse, and by default, there's risk in what we do. But we spend the money like it's ours. So this is kind of a double-edged sword here, I think, for us, because you have to be comfortable with pushing the go button and pushing things live.
Yeah.
But we do the best we can to make sure that decision is done prudently and in a very programmatic way to minimize risk for the clients. So yes, we are risk averse in execution, but by default, probably have a high threshold for risk taking at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends. It depends on how you look at it. The culture itself, I want our culture to be to empower people to make decisions, and there's some risk there. So when I say a risk-taking culture, that's kind of what I mean. I want people that come on board to our organization to feel comfortable doing things in the moment that they feel are in the best interest, and not being so nervous to not be able to be innovative. And I think that's really important for a growing organization. But when it comes to the actual service of the people that we work with, and we call them partners, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but I have banned the word clients from our lexicon. That's another story. But we call them partners because we want to partner with people to advance the mission that they really care about. And so anyway, with the partners that we're working with, when we're making decisions and doing service-related work for them, obviously there's a risk aversion there because we're working with people's lives, and in many cases their financial lives too. And so we don't want to take risk. We want to help them protect and guard against the risk. So yes, there's risk aversion there. But as far as the culture goes, I think to answer that question, I'd say we're more into risk taking or empowerment, if you will. So that's us at Initiate Impact. That doesn't mean your organization should have to be like that, but I know there's a lot of people out there that have different views on that, which is quite all right. Okay, so that was question number 3. Are we good for 4?
We are good for 4, and we're getting some good responses on IG, some tweets. So thank you everyone for chiming in. We appreciate it.
Cool.
Andy up in Brooklyn. Thanks for joining, buddy. Good to see you. All right, we're good on 4, man.
All right, 4. Push her out. Here we go. Question number 4. Yes or no? It's the yes or no one. I know we've been thinking kind of deep the past 3, so let's just do a yes or no question. Does your business proactively invest in corporate culture? Does it actively invest in corporate culture? Yes, we do. We're not that big in number yet, so that's a very easy thing to do, if you will. I think this is a good question, though, for going forward. I was kind of talking about this before you jumped on, Joe. I was kind of giving the intro of culture and talking about how if you're a founder and you might be the only person that works for your organization, that's okay, though. You want to prepare yourself for that culture. You want to hire to that culture. You want to take on clients, or in our case, partners to that culture. And so that's somewhat of an investment in corporate culture, right? Because you know that you want to be a growing organization. I don't know many founders who start a business and really don't want to grow, even if they're going to be the only employee forever. There's still somewhat of a culture there. how do they address people? How do they take on clients? How do they onboard people? Do they let potential customers run the show, or do they show that they have an idea of what they're doing and the way that they do it is the best? I mean, those are all culture related things, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a way, I think if you're an entrepreneur, regardless of the size of your business, not investing, and it's kind of a broad term, a broad concept of, in what does investment mean? Different size businesses, different types of business, different areas, the country, of the world. But if someone is not investing in their culture, then other factors will define them. And as business owners, I'd imagine a lot of people, I'm learning, not everyone, but many business owners want to control things as much as possible, but understanding that culture has just such a significant impact on your employee customers and your external customers. One would think that they would be as proactive as possible in maintaining that culture. And that can be varieties of things. Again, I worked in manufacturing environment, and people were really tuned in for the weekly and monthly emails that talked about what was going on at the plant and what was going on in the community. And so it could be something as simple as that, but a lot of effort went in, interviews, videos, etc., into those seemingly simple emails. But that's what really galvanized people at the plant. Huge plant. Everyone got access to it, but it kept everyone aligned. So it's not necessarily team building activities or anything like that. But it is. But what we're trying to say is it can be something different for the people there, the culture of the people, the culture of the organization, and what matters to those individuals. There's not really one size fits all from a tactical perspective on how to invest in corporate culture.
Yeah, and it doesn't. I think kind of what you're saying is, it could be taking a Friday off and taking everyone to go race go-karts together and do team building or shot golf or something, which is important. But there's other ways to invest in your culture. It could be bringing in a trainer. I've spoken to a couple of people who do that. Speaking of the guy Andrew was talking about,
Right.
I've also I know there's some online courses where you can actually take your employees through, or there's videos, email systems. There's also just the consistency in the way you do things at your meetings. I know I heard about a leader once who at the beginning of every meeting would have people write down the things that they appreciate about the business, or even the things that they had concerns about, but there would be a consistent practice every Monday morning meeting or whenever their weekly meeting was. And just by doing that thing over and over again, it showed the people in the organization that those are the things that are priority. So if you have your people write down every week what are the things that are most important to them, then that's going to tell them, they're going to say, oh, wow, they really care about what's important to me, because they make us write it down every week, and it just becomes part of the culture. So that's an investment of just a little bit of time. It doesn't cost you anything other than, I guess, you got to provide the paper and the ink. But I mean,
well,
I think
you bring up a good point that was in our notes in prep for this, was around consistency, right? I think there's that quote is, your culture or your habits are what you do all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And it sounds so simple, but what you just said was tremendous, right? Every meeting, every week, etc. The every part. So continuing to do it over and over again over time, that's what creates the corporate culture. And I think it's important for people to realize that corporate culture is created and maintained by people. It's not a logo on a building. It's the people there that are the ones who influence it. And then it's a living thing. It's ongoing, right? That's what the culture is. It's not just one thing that happens or a one-time thing. It's always present. Something for people to think about when they think about, what is my corporate culture plan? What does my investment plan look like? It's not just one and done. It's not just next week. It's every day. It's every week. It's every month.
Yeah, it's a living, moving, breathing organism. It's a journey. It's a process. It can go south pretty fast too, if you don't if you don't have the right culture. You've heard the stories about the cancer, the guy, gal, and the business.
It could be like vitamins, or it could be like a virus.
Yeah.
Which and people have to pick. People make a choice in their actions and how they want to invest, and there you go. It's either going to be a positive or a negative for you. It's rarely a neutral thing on the employee surveys around corporate culture. No one ever scores a neutral, not applicable.
Yeah, it's pretty polarizing, actually. It's kind of what you're saying, right? I mean, it's important. I think, and you can go find hundreds of thousands of quotes on culture, right? I mean, it's important. It's important to understand what your organization stands for. So I think if you go back to what we were saying, you're asking about who sets the culture. And we talked about it comes from the top. I mean, that's so important. So as you start building out, you never want to get to a point, you don't want to hire the greatest salesperson because you feel like they're going to be able to grow your revenue, but they're the second or third employee of the company, but you're questioning their culture. You don't want to make that hire.
And you make another fantastic point with this quote where it starts at the top. And I think, being 15 years at large businesses in different types of industries all over the country, when people say that, it starts at the top, but I go back to, what is your manager, what is your director, what is your VP doing to execute that? It's the leader's job to understand that there is a corporate culture. What actions are we taking, sure, collectively, but individually, all my SVPs around the corporation, what I'm as the CEO managing all of them to maintain and create the corporate culture. I think so many people forget that, and they just think it's that person at the top's job. Well, they should be graded out on how well they're managing everybody else. So it completely starts at the top, but you as a director, as an employee, all the way up to that person, it's your job to maintain that culture and for you to invest.
Mm-hmm. Deep. And I think the relationships are really important. I think when you talk about, did we lose Joe here? Well, either way, I think what Joe is saying is important. And I think growing relationships in your organization will help you create the proper culture. Because as you develop relationships, you start caring about people and understanding them more. And as you include them in their discussions, I don't know where I lost you, Joe, but
yeah, back here. Yeah.
I was saying that the relationships in your organization are really important. So as you bring people onto your organization, make sure you're asking them how they are. I heard a story once about someone, I can't remember who it was, but this is back when Tom Brady played for the Patriots. It seems like decades ago. And he was in the room there, in the locker room or something, and some young guy got signed or whatever, or they picked him up. And he walked into the locker room, and Tom Brady walks up to him and was like, "Hey, man, how you doing? I'm Tom." Like he was just some guy, right? And was it that important? Were the words that deep and profound? No, it was just showing that you care and you're building a relationship. And if you can have that type of culture, like, "Hey, I care about you. I want to know you by name. I called you. I want to call you by name. I don't want to say, hey, can the technician on computer number 7 figure this out?" You want to say, "Hey, can Billy... Can I talk to Billy?" or whatever the person's name is. But the idea is that you want to develop that relationship. And in my opinion, it's kind of like a multiplier. It's like a it just sets the steroid. It puts your culture on steroids. Now, if your culture is lousy, it's the same thing. But at the same time, if it's good and you have positive ideas, those relationships will grow that culture, because then it just makes it all more believable, right? I mean, you can have something posted on the wall in the break room that says, "We really care about our employees, and we're going to send everyone to Disney World 3 times a year." But if you don't actually do those things, or you don't actually prove that you care about them, then it's not going to come to fruition. So great discussion today. We're at 37 after. I think it's great. I think that's plenty on culture for the moment. But if you have other ideas or other thoughts around culture and you want to jump in the discussion, please, by all means, hit us up at Joseph J. Nolan, at BDPA. We really want to we really want to help entrepreneurs be open in this session. We want to grow with you. And so I got stuff to learn about corporate culture. I have a very small organization right now. We're hopefully growing. And y'all have been around a couple more years, but Joe's also growing too. We want to learn from each other. So if you got ideas about corporate culture, the discussion does not end at Founder Jam 8. Founder Jam 9 will continue with another topic, but all in between, we can talk about culture as much as you want. So good stuff, man.
Yeah, this was great. And remember, this topic came out of last week's engagement from a bunch of followers when we asked that culture fit or people fit, right? So we got into it last week, and some people DM'd us and said we want to dive into this a little bit more. And I think you make a great point, man. Regardless of the size of your business, if you're one person starting out, what do you stand for? What do you project outward? And if you're a mega business, congratulations. And what inward to your employees as customers and your external customers, how do you show up? No matter the size, corporate culture is really, really important and makes a difference.
Yeah. And I love how you say the participation. I mean, listen, Founder Jam is a small business, right? It's not even a business. Founder Jam is just a small movement right now. And so it's a great time to jump in. It's a great time to get involved. And so if you have an idea, we're going to be able to see it right now. Now's a good time. So like the people who sent the messages last week and said, hey, I think that question about culture was really good. Maybe we can dive a little bit deeper. And here we are diving deeper. So it's great. We don't have to, it's good for us. We don't have to chase down topics, but you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah. I see a friend of mine, Jose, just joined. Jose, man, thanks for joining. He's a heavy hitter, man, talking about corporate culture. Everybody give him a follow on LinkedIn. He posts some great content. And thanks for chiming in here today, Jose. It's great to see you again. Chiming in on the West Coast, man. We appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for the thumbs up, Jose.
Yeah. I'm sure Jose has some solid perspectives on corporate culture as well, man. He's a great guy.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, it's great to have people involved. Let's get some information out there for Girls Who Code and coffee and motivation, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we mentioned in the beginning, every week we're all about participation, giving back to the community. The first one is every week we do the $50 gift card to Coffee and Motivation Code. They've been a great partner of ours, sharing a lot of our content on Instagram. We really appreciate it. They have some super cool swag and also a tremendous email list to sign up. Bobby and I, we're not getting compensated for this. It's a cool brand that we've both known for a while. Sign up for the email list. Every day you get motivational quotes. It's a lot of fun, and they do a great job with it. So check them out there. And then something we are super passionate about, we're trying to raise awareness, get as many people involved as possible, and that's with supporting Girls Who Code. So right after this, we're going to post on LinkedIn, comment, like, share. We do that so we can raise as much awareness for Girls Who Code, especially now after COVID, getting people back into the workforce, getting women in technology. Coding is a tremendous skill that people can take. They can use anywhere. It's great. It's a great resource for people. Girls Who Code is doing a great job. So we're working with them for the next month to try and raise as much awareness and funds and support that cause. Again, Bobby and I are super passionate about this. Means a lot to us. So this week, we've heard you, our feedback. We're going to drop a post right after this into our feeds, and you can show your support there and help us do some good for a lot of people.
Awesome. So Girls Who Code, hook it up. Great, y'all. Another great Founder Jam. Number 8. We'll have number 9 next week. We're almost in double digits. That's pretty cool. So
we made it.
Appreciate everyone jumping on. And Jose, you're taking us out, bro. Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk to y'all later. Have a great week, great weekend. And Founder Jam 9 next week, 3 p.m. Wednesday. See ya.